The restlessness that keeps you from being the same. Have you ever felt like something was out of place, even when everything seemed right to others? A quiet restlessness begins to take hold of your heart. It's not anxiety, it's not fear. It's as if the Spirit is calling you to something greater, something that hasn't yet been fully revealed. You begin to realize that old habits no longer satisfy you, that shallow conversations don't fulfill you, and that there's a deep longing for more of God, more purpose, more truth. This discomfort isn't a punishment, it's a sign. It's the Holy Spirit moving you, awakening you, preparing you. When God's move begins, He first stirs within you. Before changing circumstances, He changes your perception. And this restlessness is the first step. It's as if God is saying, you no longer belong where you are. I have something new. Don't ignore this feeling. It's the harbinger of a transformation. It's heaven whispering that the time for complacency is over, and the new has already begun. Doors close, but something bigger is coming. You try, you insist, you pray, and still that door doesn't open. The job that seemed right didn't work out. The once solid friendship fell apart. The plan you so carefully crafted simply didn't come to fruition. And then the question arises, why? But God's move doesn't always begin with open doors. Sometimes He needs to close some so you don't enter places that are no longer part of your destiny. These closing doors aren't rejection, they're protection. God is freeing you from shortcuts that would hold you back, from environments that limit you, from people who won't walk with you in the new era. And as painful as it may be, it's necessary. Because when God begins to move, He clears the ground. He prepares the space. He positions you. So, if you're facing closed doors, don't despair. Breathe, trust, because what's coming is bigger. And when it arrives, you will understand that every no was actually a yes in disguise to the purpose that God has already begun to release over your life. Asterisk, you begin to see things differently. Suddenly, what once went unnoticed begins to bother you. Words that once didn't affect you now ring hollow. Places that once entertained you now seem meaningless. It's as if a new lens has been placed over your eyes and everything around you begins to be seen with greater clarity, depth, and purpose. This is one of the most subtle and powerful signs of God's move, a change in your vision. You no longer see as you did before. Now you see beyond. Beyond appearances, beyond intentions, beyond the moment. God begins to show you what's behind, what's inside, what's to come. And this transforms everything. You begin to discern. You begin to perceive what is from God and what isn't. You begin to understand that not all that glitters is gold, and that not every invitation is direction. This new vision protects you, guides you, and prepares you. Because when God begins to move, He also begins to reveal. And whoever sees with the eyes of the Spirit does not get lost on the path. Asterisk, people and places no longer make sense. You begin to feel out of place. Those environments that once welcomed you now seem strange. The conversations that once encouraged you now tire you. And some people, no matter how dear they may be, no longer move on the same wavelength as you. It's not arrogance, it's not superiority, it's transition. When God's move begins, He also begins to separate you. Not to isolate you, but to align you. Because there are places that no longer support what God is doing in you. There are bonds that, no matter how affectionate, cannot support the weight of the new season. And this hurts, but it also frees. You realize you are being called to something deeper. And to dive in, you must leave the margins. God begins to pull you away from distractions, from repetitive cycles, from connections that kept you stuck in the past. Because the new demand space in heaven is repositioning you. Don't resist, don't complain. Just understand, if you no longer fit in, it's because God is shaping you for something greater. Asterisk, faith grows even without logical explanation. You don't know how or why, but something inside you begins to believe. Even when everything seems contrary, even when the winds blow in the opposite direction, you feel a conviction that doesn't come from reason, it comes from the Spirit. It's as if God is watering a seed He Himself planted in your heart. And this faith begins to blossom. You don't have all the answers. You have no guarantees, but you have peace. And this peace makes no sense to an outsider, because God's move doesn't depend on logic, it depends on faith. And when He begins to act, He also begins to strengthen your trust. You begin to walk by conviction, not by evidence. And that changes everything. But faith that grows in the midst of uncertainty is a clear sign that God is preparing you to experience the perpetual supernatural. Because before He gives you, He teaches you to trust. And when you believe without seeing, you are already experiencing the miracle. Asterisk, the impossible begins to seem possible. Look at that situation that once seemed definitive, the diagnosis, the debt, the closed door, the shelved dream, and something inside you begins to say, it's going to happen. It's not optimism, it's activated faith. It's as if God has given you a new perspective on the impossible, and suddenly, what was once a limit becomes a starting point. This is one of the most striking signs of God's move. The change in your expectations. You begin to expect the extraordinary. You begin to believe that miracles aren't just for others, they're for you too. And this conviction doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. It comes from the Spirit that dwells within you and begins to remind you that nothing is too difficult for the Lord. You begin to declare, to pray, to act as one who has already received. Because when God begins to move, He also begins to release faith for the impossible. And this faith positions you, prepares you, propels you. Because what seemed unattainable is about to happen. And you already feel it. Asterisk, you feel like you're no longer alone. Even on days when everything seems silent, you feel a presence. It's not just comfort, it's companionship. It's as if God is walking beside you. Even when no one else understands what you're experiencing, you begin to realize that there's something greater sustaining you, guiding you, surrounding you. And this certainty changes everything. You pray and feel someone is listening. You cry and feel someone is collecting every tear. You move and feel like you're not moving alone. Because when God's move begins, He doesn't just transform the inhabits the internal, He makes Himself present. He reveals Himself, and this presence is the greatest sign of all. You're no longer struggling with your own strength. You're no longer trying to figure everything out alone, because now, you know, God is with you, and when He is, the impossible bends, fear is silenced, and purpose is fulfilled. The Word begins to speak directly to you. You open the Bible, and suddenly, that verse that has passed before your eyes so many times seems to have been written just for you. It's no coincidence, it's direction. It's as if God is using the Word itself to answer you, align you, comfort you, and this begins to happen frequently. You read and feel, you listen and understand, you meditate and receive. This is one of the clearest signs that God's move has begun. The Word comes to life. It ceases to be just text and becomes a voice that guides you, that confronts you, that heals you. And you realize that you're no longer reading out of obligation, you're reading out of necessity, because each page seems to carry a key, an answer, a confirmation. God speaks in many ways. But when He begins to move, He teaches you to listen, and the Word becomes the most direct channel. You begin to realize that you're no longer searching out of curiosity, but for survival, because what is written begins to be fulfilled, and you feel like you're living what you once only read. Asterisk, time seems to speed up, and you understand why. You begin to notice that things are happening faster. What once took months now takes place in days. Doors open more easily. Connections emerge out of nowhere. The rhythm changes, and you feel like you're being carried by a current that isn't natural, it's spiritual. It's as if God is pushing you toward your purpose. Without further ado, this is a clear sign that the movement has already begun. Time aligns with heaven, because when God decides to act, He doesn't follow a human clock, He follows His timing. And in this time, there is acceleration, there is alignment, there is fulfillment. You begin to experience promises that seem distant. You begin to reap fruits you didn't even know you had planted. You begin to understand that the time of waiting is giving way to the time of manifestation. It's not a coincidence, it's fulfillment. God is accelerating because you are ready, and everything that seems slow now begins to make sense. Because God's timing doesn't delay, He prepares, and when it arrives, it comes with strength, it comes with purpose, it comes with destiny. Asterisk, you feel like you're being prepared for something greater. You don't know exactly what it is, but you feel like you're being shaped. Every challenge seems to have a purpose. Every silence carries a lesson. Every step, however uncertain, seems to lead you to a destination you can't yet see, but are already beginning to sense. It's as if God is training you not to survive, but to lead, to make an impact, to accomplish. This is one of the most profound signs of God's move, preparation. He begins to work in areas you didn't even know needed adjustment. He teaches you patience, strengthens you in waiting, and gives you resilience in pain. Because what is coming requires structure, and God doesn't hand over greatness to those who haven't yet been polished. You begin to realize that everything has a reason, that nothing is in vain, that even the difficult days are shaping you. And this awareness gives you strength. Now you understand, it's not punishment, it's empowerment. It's not delay, it's alignment. God is preparing you, and when the time is right, you'll look back and say, it was necessary. And it was worth it. The Spirit begins to remind you who you were. Begin to remember ancient promises, words that were released over your life and that, for some reason, were forgotten over time. But now, they return with force, they return with life, they return with purpose. It's as if the Holy Spirit is breathing upon your identity, reminding you of who you are and, most importantly, who you've always been. You realize that you're not just another person, that you're not here by chance, that there's a calling, a mission, a mark from God upon you. And this reminder doesn't come from the mind, it comes from the Spirit. It's as if heaven is repositioning you, awakening you, aligning you with what has always been yours by spiritual right. This is one of the most profound signs of God's move, the restoration of identity, because before leading you to the new, He reminds you of the original, and when you reconnect with who you are in God, everything changes. The way you pray, the way you act, the way you hope. Because now you know, you're not starting from scratch. You're going back to the center. Asterisk, you feel the time has come to say yes. You can no longer ignore it. What was once just a desire, now pulses like a calling. You feel the time has come to take a stand, to take the step, to step off the shore and dive in. It's no longer time to postpone. It's no longer time to negotiate with fear. It's time to say yes. This is one of the most decisive signs of God's move, the urge to obedience. You feel you can no longer stand still. That later has become now, that who knows has become it's you. And this yes isn't just a word, it's a surrender. It's a response to heaven. It's the release of all that was held back. You realize that the yes God expects isn't perfect, it's sincere. And when you say it, even with doubts, even with limitations, heaven moves. Because God doesn't expect perfection, He expects willingness. And when you are willing, He acts, He confirms, He sustains. Because the yes you give here releases the movement that has already begun there.